Welcome back. Thanks so much for staying on with us. This is Startup Central. Let's move away from that then and focus in on a discussion when it comes to waste management. Real-time tracking of waste management via an app, is that possible? It indeed is. The management of Recykal is helping the likes of Marico, Nykaa, Coca-Cola become plastic neutral and is revolutionizing waste management industry with tech. Here are a conversation that I had with Recykal. Recycle with the spelling, it got me a little bit confused, but that aside, let's not confuse viewers about what exactly you do, because it started off with the problem of waste management. You wanted to formalize this sector. You didn't realize how big this issue really is in India and how the ecosystem worked. But here you are today. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks for having me on this show. So as we all know that waste is a big problem across the country, and it's a global problem. India is anyway much larger, and but at the same time it's a much bigger opportunity. I think if you look at the waste management, it is a more informal cash driven economy. And just to give you context, 1.5% of India's population gets food every day because somebody in their family is working in waste management. It has such a large impact, although 90% of them are below bottom of the pyramid and exploited more, but it has its own challenges because of the informal nature and cash driven economy. So what we thought when we started Recycle in 2016, that we wanted to formalize it a bit. I know that more informal, more cash driven, bigger is the opportunity. So we took that as a space where we said, let's formalize the informal waste management sector. And that's where the journey started. Although, as I always said, we didn't know much about it. We just went inside, spent 2 years, 2016 and 17, in understanding the space, understanding the ecosystem. There's so many different stakeholders, like a small kabadiwala, rack picker, a large conglomerate where they are like aggregators who have been like in the business for years. At the same time, then we have government also is a major stakeholder into this. And off late, even the brands, right? If you look at the producers, brands, they also become a part of this ecosystem. So the reason of they becoming a part of ecosystem, and I feel that that personally was a game changer for the industry. Till 2016 and 17, the brands, the producers, the real polluters were not a part of this ecosystem. They were just generating the waste, but they were not responsible for disposal of the waste. So the day the government made them responsible through a regulation called EPR, extended producer responsibility, that the thing started changing and the formalization of the industry started happening. And today, say after 7 years of our existence, we see a lot of change in the perspective because of the every ecosystem player, and thanks to the major focus of last 1 year towards circular economy, and in addition to that ESG. So all these have played a major role into getting this space formal. It's not just our presence, but the compliance, the policies, voluntary actions by the brands, and the thanks to Swachh Bharat, people are also becoming aware. So I think all this has played a role, and we are seeing that behavioral change amongst the every stakeholder towards the circular economy and better waste management.
Okay, now it's pretty interesting because in order to make this work, you really have to have a lot of states on board. And I understand that Goa was the first Indian state to announce the intent to implement DRS, which is the deposit refund system, essentially an incentive to recycle the consumer level. How have you been, or what has the journey been like, really convincing a lot of these state governments to adopt DRS? Have there been any other states that have onboarded, and what is the update on that front?
Deposit return system has been we feel that is going to be bring that mass level behavioral change in the consumer. If you look at globally, there are 40 countries and 81 states which have already implemented deposit return system. And it's a very simple concept where you put a deposit on a packaging when the product is sold. Say a Bisleri bottle is sold at 10 rupees, a 2 rupees deposit is added on it. When the consumer returns the bottle, the 2 rupees are given him back. Now this itself, and it is done at a large scale. So we did it at a small scale in Kedarnath last year, and it was a great success. We saw big behavioral change there. We saw almost 160,000 bottles got collected. Reverse, we got them back into the system, and after the success, I think it got the national award. It got a lot of coverage everywhere, and that actually attracted many states' attention. And a lot of states started approaching us to look at implementing it at their own states. The conversations are on at multiple states like Goa, Uttarakhand, Gujarat. Goa is ahead the lead. They wanted to implement it. They already declared the intent. The legislation process and everything is on. Hopefully, Goa will see a DRS next financial year for sure.
You know, and I read in an article that you said that in waste management, behavioral change is required for everyone because waste is everyone's problem. And that's so correct. So I just want to understand from you, how can we help? How can just one individual do their little bit to make a change to help get a cleaner, greener India?
See, I think that behavioral change is happening, but the percentage that the number is very small even today. Post pandemic, we saw a lot of people. There is a behavioral change, but that still is in a single digit percentage. But to achieve the impactful and sustainable impact, if you actually wanted to achieve, it has to be mass level. And I think that's where the technology innovations like DRS, which brings that mass level behavioral change, are going to be very important. Just one DRS, there can be multiple such solution. Because being an Indian consumer, I am always very conscious. And what we have seen in past also, that only fear or greed can change the behavior, right? Fear is beyond us. We can't bring that into the consumer, but greed is something which we can bring into the consumer. And that's where the DRS, the incentives for behavioral change, can bring a major change. So I think if we need to define such technologies and platform to really bring that. And once it happens, I see that the next generation already has that behavioral change, because they have been like educated from 2014 on Swachh Bharat, and they have been like, they know littering is bad. But the people who are more than age of 18 plus or 20, they were not trained in the childhood like the way this new generation is trained. So I feel that more and more innovation on technology side to bring that mass level behavioral change is a need of the hour, and we are hopeful that at least from the waste management perspective, DRS will do that to some extent.
All right. Abhay, kudos to all the efforts that you've really made and how you've really managed to build this business. And we wish you all the very best in your future endeavors. Here's a hope that with steps like this, we can actually achieve that endeavor of reducing waste management.